German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier's first day in Nigeria was a mix of diplomacy and creativity. After discussing regional issues with President Tinubu in Abuja, he was thrust into Lagos' thriving arts and culture scene. As part of his third visit to Nigeria, his first as president, the Nikkei Art Gallery in Lagos was the venue of the evening's festivities, showcasing more than 25,000 pieces of art, all by Nigerian artists. With an exclusive interview with President Steinmeier, Arise international correspondent Adefemi Akinsanya has this report from the event.
Our businessmen.
It was a busy first full day of engagements for the German president in Nigeria. Frank-Walter Steinmeier first joined forces with his counterpart, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in Abuja, where he commended the Nigerian leader for his role in calming turbulence in West Africa following Niger and Mali's exit from ECOWAS. From talking conflict to culture. Steinmeier set his sights on the Nikkei Art Gallery in Lagos. 4 floors, 500 artists and 25,000 pieces of art on display. And for the gallery's iconic owner, her pride was palpable.
I feel good and I feel happy, and I thank the media. I thank Arise for being there. Anything they say about Nigeria, they are the best. When I first started to pick almost 20 artists, they said it's too much. Then they come themselves and pick 5 of my artists. But I always want them to meet their client, and they will be able to explain their work by themselves. Nobody can talk about them more than them. So I was so happy and honored, and today is going to remain green in my life.
The president was given a front row seat to the culture on display. Drummers and dancers showcased the sounds and rhythms of Nigeria's diverse tribes. And then there was the tour, which gave the German leader more opportunity to feast his eyes.
Culture, in all its forms, is a bridge that connects us across languages, borders, and histories. Tonight we have come together to honor the stories, values, and perspectives that Nigerian and West African art brings to our lives.
You know, this is my 3rd visit in Nigeria, and my perception is indeed the relations between Germany and Nigeria are stable, because they are not only based on politics and economy, but also on culture. And we have a very, very vivid exchange of artists between Germany and Nigeria. And you know, what we are seeing here is really a document of the variety of Nigerian artists. I'm really fascinated. Myself and the Nigerian president were expressing and explaining this morning during the press conference. We are trying to deepen our relations, and you know, that cannot be done without the presence on both sides. So I was very happy to receive your president last year in Germany, and I'm happy to be here again for, in the meanwhile, the 3rd time.
The German president is expected to still stay in Lagos and participate in visiting some different business hubs here. In addition to that, talking about what he has seen here so far, it does show as though he is very, very happy with the arts and culture scene in Nigeria that he's been able to see, that he's been able to witness so far. I talked to him about the gift he received from one of the Nigerian artists, which was a portrait of himself that had a German and the Nigerian flag on his tie, and he did say that was wonderful. So as you can imagine, quite an eventful day here at the Nikkei Art Gallery. Despite the spirits of jubilation and general enjoyment, there's also the reminder of the political importance of art.
I'm not against meeting any foreign leader. What is important is if we don't compromise our integrity and sell ourselves and not protect our interest.
Thank you so much. Come Thursday, President Steinmeier shifts focus to furthering business relations between Germany and Nigeria. Stronger ties, it's hoped, will translate into clearer economic skies for Nigeria in the not-too-distant future. Adefemi Akinsanya, Arise News, Lagos.
Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai.
Hey. Good morning to us in German.
Guten Tag.
Morgen.
Guten Morgen, damn. Gosh.
Guten Morgen.
Oh, my one opportunity to show my language skills. Gosh. Do you guys know how to say excuse me in German? Let me sit up. Entschuldigung. Entschuldigung.
Danke, mir Lieben.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bitte. Okay, let me tell you about what's happening around the world. Now, Syrian rebels have set fire to the tomb of the country's former president, Hafiz al-Assad, that is Bashar al-Assad's father, in the Latakia province, a hometown. That is, of course, in northwest Syria. That's according to a war monitor who said so on Wednesday. Now, Assad ruled Syria for 30 years. That's the senior Assad ruled Syria for 30 years until his death in 2000 when his son Bashar succeeded him. Both ruled Syria with an iron fist and were behind crackdowns that left tens of thousands of Syrians dead, both in the central city of Hama in 1982 and then, of course, in the wider country since the civil war broke out in 2011. Videos showed armed men chanting and dancing around the burning mausoleum while holding a Syrian flag aloft. The future of Syria now does still remain unclear, with the world waiting to see if the rebels can stabilize the country and avoid unleashing violent revenge. After a 13-year civil war fought along sectarian and ethnic lines destroyed the country. The United Kingdom now, and an 18-year-old Briton who had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old British girl in Dubai while the pair were on holiday with their families has been sentenced to 1 year in prison in the United Arab Emirates. Marcus Fakana, who is from Tottenham, North London, began the secretive holiday romance in September with another Londoner who is now aged 18. After returning home and seeing pictures and chats, the girl's mother reported the relationship to Dubai police, who then arrested Fakana at his hotel. Now, sexual intercourse with another person aged under 18 is illegal in Dubai, but a campaign group detained in Dubai called the judgment an utter disgrace and said that Fakana would appeal against the unreasonable sentence. Now, the story has caused an uproar in the United Kingdom, as many say a custodial sentence for consensual sex with two people, tourists who are only supposed to be in the country for a short time, does not warrant a year in jail and doesn't warrant tearing his family apart and ruining a young 18-year-old's life. There are also conversations about race playing a role in this. And finally, your favorite Nigerian, Kemi Badenoch, has stood by her past comments about Nigeria. That is, of course, after earlier this week, Vice President Kashim Shettima accused her of denigrating the country. On Monday, as we know, the Vice President suggested Badenoch could remove the Kemi from her name if she was not proud of her nation of origin. But when asked about Shettima's comments, Kemi Badenoch's spokesman said that she stands by what she said and she is not the PR for Nigeria.
So a couple of things. I mean, we're not saying Kemi doesn't have a right to speak, but she stops spewing lies.
Yeah.
All she does is she barefaced lies. I was reading an article on The Guardian yesterday where, yeah, you might say the person writing is about the leftists, but she just lies. Kemi just, a lot of things factually incorrect. And it will get to a point where people that really grew up with Kemi should be able to come out and say, this thing you said about growing up was wrong. Because people like Kemi still...
Is she not entitled to say that during that time, in her early teen years, Nigeria's political scene was very dangerous? Of course, we had assassinations. Perhaps that's what she's referring to?
No, other things that she said are the fact that they woke up in the middle of the night and there were harassment. They were checking their doors.
Maybe lights would have gone that night. She could have been afraid.
So that's the lies that she tells. And she keeps berating socialism, which gave most Nigerians a sheltered life. See, you might not like a lot of things about Nigeria, but one thing I'll never lie to you about is we paid considerably lower tuition than what you paid in England.
That's true.
All right? And that was socialism. And kudos to Nigeria for that. You know why Nigerian doctors are doing well all over the world? Because getting a medical education in Nigeria is one of the cheapest in the world. So you have that foundation first. But this is the same Kemi that was praising Nigeria when she was running for Dulwich constituency in 2010. Because she needed the Nigerian votes then.
Yeah,
so what changed?
South London, isn't it? Yeah.
So that means it shows a lot of lies that are going on.
Yeah.
Let me quickly move on to Syria. I don't want to talk too much about lying Kemi, not bad enough Kemi. As regards Syria, see, the rebels, out of emotions and everything, are going to burn Ephesus temple, Ephesus mausoleum and everything. But it's just going to change the fact that there's a big problem on ground. And in all fairness, I think we were talking to Dr. Bati off the air yesterday about this disorder that is happening in Syria now, because we don't know. American and the Kurds are supporting some of the rebel group on the east and all of that. The HTS is down in Damascus and a couple of other places. The West loves the disorder. Look at what Israel is doing now. Under the guise of trying to secure chemical weapons, Israel is encroaching, bombing, consolidating. They've moved away from 1974 agreement, moved deep into Golan Heights and all of that. So
Beyond
the West loves this disorder. Exactly the same disorder that they have brought about in Libya. I'm not saying don't fight dictators and everything.
Right.
But in the end, and I keep saying, if elections are not done, what might probably happen is it will be a no man's land, just like what happened to Germany after the Second World War, where you had the American sector, the Soviet sector, and that led to the balkanization of Germany in such a way that Germany was not divided along ideological lines. That might what will happen, except something is done quickly. But the left love this.
Thanks, Rufai.
Right, okay, let me start with Marcus Fakana, because that's such a sad story.
Right.
19-year-old, but I think he's probably 20 now.
He's 18.
He's 18 now, probably going on 19.
Yes.
The girl was 17 and is now 18 years old. But the truth about it is that when it comes to visiting other countries, one of the things you're advised to do is to read up on what is acceptable or what is not acceptable. A lot of people before traveling don't do their due diligence and go, and we know Dubai has very strict laws when it comes to certain things that might be seen as normal in other countries, part of which is sexual intercourse between two people, if underage as they consider it. Again, what the international community is saying is that it's too stiff, it's too, for such a crime, he just fell in love with a girl. But the truth is that the law had been in place before he traveled. So he ought to have known it. If the girl's mom didn't report to the police authorities, then perhaps he wouldn't be in this kind of situation. It's just sad that, a young boy, because the girl, I would like to know the identity. Well, I know they can't reveal the identity of the girl, but you talked about the race card playing here.
She's British Indian.
Okay.
So she's not black. Marcus is black, and he's from Tottenham, which, as you know, is a bit of an impoverished community. And so the issue is that why is it that the young lady's mother waited until her daughter was safe in the United Kingdom before informing authorities?
Both of them are guilty.
Yes, they would both be exactly.
It wasn't forced. So both of them ought to have faced the music in Dubai. But she, like you said, was after her daughter had gone back. Marcus was still in Dubai and was held for 3 days. He didn't speak to his parents. So that's the injustice that a lot of people are talking about. So for Dubai now, the onus is now on them in terms of the image for their country. Dubai is set to be the market as a tourist destination. It will hurt their image if they are not able to, on this occasion, grant some kind of concession or leniency to this young man whose crime, he can plead ignorant, but like Dr. Abati always says, ignorance is not an excuse when it comes to the law. And so that's unfortunately what's happened. Right. Very recently, I'll end here, you weren't even allowed to, sleep with someone that was not your spouse in Dubai. Absolutely. It was only revoked recently for tourists. So people should read a bit more about, if you're going to visit a new country, find out their rules, their regulations, things that might not be the norm, as it is for you.
Okay, let me start with Syria. Hafez al-Assad assumed power in 1971 and remained in power till 2000, year 2000. And he built up one of the most murderous, tyrannical dynasties in the Middle East. Now, his first son was in fact specially groomed to succeed him. But that is a flamboyant first son who loved to go to parties and ride the exotic cars, died in an accident. And that was how Bashar al-Assad ended up as, president as part of that dynasty. He was an ophthalmic surgeon in London, and he will have been, fine, just living a quiet life in the United Kingdom. I've made the point that from the point of view of psychoanalysis, it seems that he needed to compensate for that position by even being more brutish than his own father. What are the latest developments? Now, yesterday, there was an assault on the mausoleum in the northwest where the Al-Assads, where they come from. And they pulled down posters, monuments, celebrating any member of the Assad family whatsoever. But at the base of it, it's about religious diversity. The Assads, they are from a group called the Alawites, 10% of the population. And they just held down the country for 54 years, father and son. Now, one of the things that Al-Julani is saying, that's not his real name that he has now adopted is Al-Shara. He now says it's Al-Shara, whatever, whether Al-Julani or Al-Shara. He's now saying he wants a country that is diverse religiously. And that's why the Free Syrian Army had a meeting with them and they signed an agreement that they want a country that is diverse. So they are doing everything to remove the Assad legacy. Now, the number two is that they've gone to all the sites where they were keeping people in detention.
Yes.
Under Al-Assad, if anybody expressed an opinion, that person will be locked up. Families are looking for their persons who were detained. Number three, Israel has entered Syria, saying it's taking preemptive measure. It doesn't want Syria, to develop a navy. They've even destroyed 6 naval ships. The Russians are moving away. The Iranians are moving away. The fourth thing is that there is euphoria, celebration. People in Syria, in Damascus, are saying for the first time in a long while, they can breathe. They can feel that there is oxygen in the air. But the fifth point about Syria is that what is the future of Syria? There's still a lot of uncertainty. The Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces, the Syrian National Army, the HTS, and then the Free Syrian Army, all of them, are they going to share power?
Yes.
The fear is that if that country implodes, there will be humanitarian crisis.
Agreed.
Let me leave it at that and talk about Kemi Badenoch quickly in a few seconds. And to say that, look, Kemi Badenoch saying that, look, she's not doing PR for Nigeria. She doesn't have an obligation to do that. Well, perhaps she's right. But asking her to drop Kemi from her name, no. Nigeria recognizes dual nationality. And she just made a choice that, look, she prefers England. Now, the story she told about armed robbery, younger people may not know this. Armed robbery used to be a very serious problem in this country. That people will be knocking, the armed robbers will be knocking from door to door in estates in this same country. Maybe that was her experience before she left Nigeria at 16. But the lesson for Nigeria is that what she has said should, compel us to reflect on the situation of our children who leave this country and go elsewhere. Because it's not all of them that will look back and say Nigeria was good. Some of them will look back and say, oh, what a country. Now, what can we do to make sure that while we live in a world where our children can go anywhere, they will still be proud of Nigeria?
They are. Definitely. Well, thank you all for your comments. Let's move on now to newspaper headlines from across the globe. And we begin in Nigeria. This day leads this morning with the same story we just discussed on the World Brief, which is Vice President Kashim Shettima saying that Kemi Badenoch can drop the Kemi from her name for denigrating Nigeria, and Kemi Badenoch in return saying that she stands by the comments she's made and she is not doing PR for Nigeria. Our picture headline also shows members of the Arise crew. We've got the chairman of This Day and Arise Media Group, Prince Nduka Obagbena, beside President Steinmeier. His wife there, the beautiful Chinwe, is on the far left, and she's next to Dr. Inka, who is the wife of the Consul General of Germany. You've got Mama Nike herself alongside the Consul General Ward Broma and our very own Oji Okwe on the far right there. Moving on to the Daily Independent, it features another, if you can call it a broken promise from the federal government, 150 megawatts of electricity before the end of the year, and that's of course as the national grid collapses for the 12th time this year. Still on the electricity debacle, and the Punch leads with Nigerians facing blackout as gas producers cut off supply to Gencos. Power ministers and the presidency say they are aware of the situation. To the New Telegraph now, which leads with the Allied air cargo incident where 5 people were able to escape unhurt as the cargo aircraft skidded off an Abuja airport runway. way, the carrier has now suspended flight operations, which has left passengers stranded at airports. There's a focus on politics on the cover of The Guardian this morning ahead of 2027. The future of the opposition is uncertain and politicians are beginning realignment. Further, Daniel Bwala says President Tinubu will seek re-election in 2027. Finally, to the Daily Trust, representatives are looking at Nigeria's customs services and probing them rather on the smuggling and brutality at our borders. That's all the time we have, it looks like, for our newspapers this morning. But yeah, a few stories there.
So a couple of things. I'm still going to go back to that Shetima and Kemi's story. Truth has to be said. I'm trying to dig out that her campaign page when she was running for Dulwich.
Okay.
I think if I dig it out, I will read the same things, this same Kemi that is berating Nigeria said about Nigeria.
Yes, politics.
Because this was the same Kemi there, and if my memory serves, one of the things she wrote there, just like, we hear stories about bombings in Nigeria, but we should remember that it's not Nigeria. It doesn't define us. Nigerians should rally around me and all of that. But all of a sudden, she never got Dulwich, and she now looked and said, what's the next thing I'm going to do now? Let me be very right wing so that they'll like me.
Yeah, so
it's an identity crisis. This was the same Kemi that supported Sewell's, race reports, which is a damning one that institutional racism doesn't happen in Britain. It's a very damning one.
Not true. Thanks, Rufai.
Let me help you. I found the campaign. I cannot
God
believe
bless
the words
you.
that she said.
Read it.
She says, like you, I'm sick and tired of reading that Nigerians are fraudsters, terrorists, bombing airplanes or slaughtering each other in places like Jos. This is from Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah.
Then my promise to you is this. I've skipped a few paragraphs. If I get elected as a legislator, I will, number one, use whatever influence I have to speak out against those who are cheating and robbing Nigeria and who seek refuge for themselves or their money in the UK.
Abati Baba.
Kemi.
Abati Baba.
The same nostrils that politicians are saying anywhere, whether Nigeria or the UK.
Okay, I get your point. Now, you can accuse her of Uncle Tomism. Harriet Stowe Beecher wrote the book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. There's also, on the other side, what is called in literature, Aunt Jemima. When you find somebody trying to identify, with the other side and disparage their own race. I know where you are coming from, but is it also possible that an individual can change his or her mind? Over time. You don't know what. You don't know what.
It doesn't favor them.
No, just
like the decamp.
You don't know what experience she may have been through. And if you look at Nigeria over the years, don't we also change our minds about certain circumstances?
But she would have still had those experiences when she wrote that first manifesto.
Yeah, she had those experiences, but she chose not to use it then because she was caught in Nigeria.
She's still connected to her roots. People evolve. People change their minds. So, but your point about opportunism, I know where you're coming from. But the more disturbing story for me in the papers today is the murder of Sarah Sharif, which is in the front page of some of the papers, about how she was killed by her father and her stepmother in the UK. And the jury ruled yesterday to find the parents guilty.